Hi, and welcome to FX PhD Class 8 Photogrammetry. On this class, we will see how we can do some photogrammetry with a drone shots. So basically, we've been on the set and try to do a 360 with a drone and try to cover as much as possible the church here. So the idea is, instead of doing like picture with a camera here on the ground, we use this drone so we can get a definitely a better angle and try to get as much as possible detail on every single angle. So the idea was at least to do one full 360 to cover every single angle. So we will do two things. First, we're gonna try to cover the ground and try to reproduce as much as possible the environment. And the second part will be to focus on the church here. So we will do two different photogrammetry and try to combine everything in Maya. So you can see the footage is quite long and is good because it means we do have a lot of coverage of the church. Obviously, when it's too far, is not very useful, because what we want is just to focus as much as possible on the church. So it's why we're gonna try to convert this footage on each pictures, because this it's a QuickTime, right? Or it's a MP4, sorry. So unfortunately we cannot load a video file in Reality Capture, so we have to convert everything. So the first step is to import your QuickTime and make sure we can convert everything here. So the total amount is 2,500 pictures. So you can see here we have every single pictures and we can write a sequence. So the idea is here, for instance, you can load here the 2,500 pictures. So workflow here, and I'm gonna do the 2K version here. So basically, if I just press align, it will take a little while to align every single image. On this computer, it took approximately an hour and 15 minutes. And instead of just waiting, I just saved the file just for you, so we don't have to wait too much. So for instance, there we go. If I load this one here, it's probably the right one because it's taking a lot. There we go. So this is the result of the 2,500 images. So you can see we have a very accurate point cloud on the 360 of the drone shot here. So what is very, very interesting is, because on this exercise, for instance, we will love to, for instance, to integrate a CG elements here on the bottom next to the church. So what is great is we do have every single corner of the trees. So if you put a reflective object, it will definitely get the reflection of the environment. So also you can see the path of the drone here and every single image here. So you can see like every single image have a very small gap in between here. So this is very, very interesting. So what we have to do now is just to open the file and see about the modeling. So for instance, if you create here a draft photogrammetry here, like a quick preview, it will be very quick, but obviously we need to do a normal version. So again, instead of waiting minutes, we're gonna just open the project file. And here we go. So I believe this is the one. Yeah. So here you see you do have like a very nice model. So we have raw data, obviously, for the trees, but you can recognize we have the tennis court here. We saw on the footage tennis court. You can see a little bit before after maybe. Yeah, tennis court here, swimming pool here, bigger house 1 and 2, and it's exactly the same here. We can recognize the big house here, and maybe it's not very accurate for this one here, but it's not very important for our exercise. So what we want to do is to recreate something here. So the thing is, of course, you can process this amount of images, and reality capture can definitely do it. It's just gonna take a lot of time. So what I reckon, what you can do instead to processing this amount of data, it's just to, for instance, export a different sequence. So it's why I create a 2K steps. So instead of exporting this amount of image, the idea is just to think a little bit how we can optimize the process. Because for instance here, if you see, because all about the photogrammetry is to take a huge amount of pictures. So this is ideal for us, because in between two pictures, for instance, if you zoom in, you have a very small parallax. So the more pictures, the better. But obviously, in between this picture and this picture and this picture, for instance, we don't have a lot of parallax. So what we can do, for instance, is export every 10 steps. And this will be enough, obviously, to cover the photogrammetry. Because in between two pictures, we have a small gap, a small parallax, and this will be enough for us to create the reconstruction. So yeah, I think this is definitely a clever way to approach a drone, because if you have time, obviously it's fine, you can just brute force, but it won't make a huge difference, because when you do some pictures, obviously you do have a small gap in between. So this is absolutely fine. So it's exactly what you're gonna do. So in Nuke here, when you render, what you have to do is to do the full frame range here, and you type X10. So X10 means we're gonna render every 10 frames, and just click render, and you're gonna just export 250 frames. So I just said before, it took 1 hour and 15 minutes roughly just for the alignment. So what I'm gonna do now is just to import the folder, and instead of have the full frame range, the 2K version, I'm gonna do the 2K steps. 250 image, and press align. Not even a draft one, just alignment. And we will compare now between the huge amount of time it took to align 2500 images to see how it takes now to align 250 images. So obviously you divide the amount massively, gigantic, the amount of time you're gonna save for pretty much the same result, because again, the idea is not to get a super accurate model, because this photogrammetry, you won't be able to use it as a hero asset, because you do have always very raw data, but it's definitely a huge amount of, you save a huge amount of time doing this process, because if you do it properly, it's extremely straightforward, and reality capture make a huge difference, because it's extremely fast and a software based on the GPU process. So here we go. It took a minute instead of more than an hour, at least on this computer. Just again to see the specs. There we go. Done. 1 minute. And now you see you do have the same result, almost the same result, but what we want is a church. So again, sorry, what you want to do now is just to do a quick bounding box. So just align the bounding box quickly, and I'm gonna make sure we do have the spikes. So increase slightly the high and rotate this guy. So make sure we're always pointing to Z, is what I prefer. So basically our Y in Maya. And I'm gonna just make something a little bit, yeah, like this, a bit more ground, and quick preview. And there we go. After a few seconds, we have our model. And this is done. Of course, it's a preview, so it's not extremely accurate, but I can see the direction. So I just have to do a quick normal detail. So this normal detail will take roughly few minutes. I think it took like 3 minutes in total, so it's not extremely long. So again, what is very interesting with this approach, it's always to think a little bit before we process and brute force everything, because there's no point really to increase, to have a huge amount of data, because yeah, in between those two pictures is very, very little. But of course, if you just kick a process overnight, it's always better. But I always like to work with light process if I can, because it could be a huge amount of saving time. Because if something goes wrong, you have time to go back. So if you kick a process and it takes few hours, it's absolutely fine, but it means the next day you have to make sure you get a result. Because if something goes wrong, you lost a night of processing, and this could be very, very delicate. So it's why it's always important first just to see how it goes, even just to start the process and the layout and the 3D pipeline, so at least people can carry on, and you can probably do another version with a very high resolution just in case to get something more details, but at least the next department can definitely start the modeling, textures, UVs and everything of this, because we do have already a good, accurate model we will see after this process. So obviously you can minimize it, as we remember. So here is a process on the background and shows the process is back to normal. In Windows you have this green process bar here. So if you do any modification or if you check anything here, you still have the hand to control reality capture. So here, obviously we don't need any control point because we have definitely enough coverage here. Just enough coverage, so just a matter of waiting. So I'm gonna just stop the video the time this is finished, and I will resume as soon as this is done. And there we go, this is done now. Just finishing to rebuild the detail, and we do have our church after maybe 10 minutes of process, even less. It was extremely straightforward, and yeah, we have all our details. So what I'm gonna do now, we have almost millions of polygons, so this is great. So it's probably a bit too much for us, but I think what I can do to reduce it, just to cut this, but I want the house here, so I cannot. I can probably just reduce the bounding box here slightly, just to get the church, because again I need different things. Yeah, so this is good. I'm gonna just reduce this just to get the church properly. Let's switch to top view. There we go, and I just make sure we can clip it properly just to reduce. There we go. And yeah, quite happy with that. Just redo a quick draft. This takes a few seconds. Oops, sorry. I clicked the wrong one. I click draft preview here. I was wondering why it's taking too long, because it's just a matter to redo it, and normal detail again. So because it's already processed once, it won't take too long now to just adjust the solution. This takes a few seconds. Just need him to wait and just adjust the solution. It's gonna take like maybe a few seconds. There we go, this is done. Yeah, we have our photogrammetry. So I'm gonna do a quick UV. So now I'm gonna try to make more UDIMs just to see how it goes. Just before, I'm gonna just reduce. There's no point to do that on the... Oh, it's half million, it's okay. I'm gonna just, for instance, so this is normal. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just delete this because it's what I don't need that. Go back to this model. Yeah, perfect. I'm gonna simplify my geometry, and instead of having, I know I do have 1000, so this is perfect. Let's reprocess the model. I think I just deleted the wrong one. So I'm gonna just reprocess the normal detail version and wait a few seconds. There we go, it's almost done. Yeah, perfect. So this is 429K. So simplify, I'm gonna put, yeah, this look right. Just to have something a bit lighter to process everything. Yeah, very happy with that. It's good enough. Let's compare the model. Yeah, you can see it's like slightly different, but it's 5 times lighter. So for me, it's good enough. I still have the proportion. I still have the angle. So this is the main thing. Doesn't matter about this because this is just flat. I have like the proportion. So I'm gonna inwarp and make a quick UVs, and straight away I'm gonna export this to check this in Maya. Export to Maya. No texture, I don't have any texture yet. I want to see how many UDIMs I have now. So let's go here, import my model, and go in my cache, OBJ, and order by date. Brilliant. And how many UDIMs? I have only 1 UDIMs. So obviously this is good, but if I do want more UDIMs, I just need to force him. Like for instance, here, if I go back to reality capture, what I can do here, it's go back to my inwarp, and then I reduce the resolution, because I already tell him that I do have 10 UDIMs. So the fact I'm gonna reduce this, I'm gonna force him to spread the UDIMs. So I'm gonna re-export, same one, yeah, don't have to have different OBJ. And I'm gonna import again, same model. No, I haven't spread any more UDIMs. No, it's exactly the same. Unfortunately, it cannot spread anymore. So what I'm gonna do is just to reduce this. So if you play with those parameters, it will force him to spread the amount of UDIMs. But sometimes you cannot because it's just enough for him. So let's see how it goes. Just in warp tick, mesh. There we go, export, and see if I do have a better result now. Import. It's a bit better, it just spread a bit more compared to the previous one, but it's not enough. I think this is better because you have bigger chunks here, right, compared to the previous version. It was identical, but this one have a better coverage. So I think this is definitely better. Again, what you can do is to have a quick inwarp here, because as we saw in the previous version, this is good for just raw data and check quickly how things are in Maya. But obviously if you want to texture everything, you need to use Substance Painter or Mari. It could be enough, but depends what you need. What I prefer is just to make some UVs in Maya, for instance, because the UV toolkit is very good now. So if you just, for instance, in warp UVs, you can export the model here, and make sure you keep the same rotation. This is always very important. So rotations, I mean the position of the model have to be exactly on the same position, and then in reality capture you can re-import the model with different UVs. So this is very, very important. So for instance, if I want to do a quick one, I want to make sure we have transform, create. I'm going to do automatic. It will take a little while just to create everything. Yeah, there we go. So let's say I'm happy with that. I don't want to touch anything. So let's export this and go to UVs, cache, obj. I'm gonna do obj, export to reality capture. Reality capture, small version. There we go. So now I'm gonna just import everything. Yeah. You notice exactly the same thing, but a bit better because it was an automatic. And just for commands, I just forgot, make sure when you do an automatic or something, make sure your model is completely flat because it just projects things. So I will get probably a better result if I just realign everything perfectly. So let's hide everything here. I will just, for instance, create this. Yeah, happy, and a quick rotation. I'm pretty sure we'll have a better result. So let's automatic UVs. Of course, if your model is extremely heavy, it can take a while or even just freeze your Maya. Oh, identical. Okay, fair enough. Now, before to export, reset everything and we export the model. So now here in reality capture, I have my UVs, correct UVs, and I'm gonna just create a quick texture. Okay, just take a few minutes, time to bake the texture and project the texture on the UVs. It's in general it's not extremely long, this process, because it's just a matter of projecting the pictures. Depends again of the amount of pictures and the quality of the model, but in general, because you do have already a solid modeling and UVs, it shouldn't take too long to reproject the texture and bake everything on the UVs. So you can see the progress bar going very, very fast. And there we go, it's done. And for photogrammetry, you can see with the texture is very forgiving. We don't need extremely high quality. Of course, you notice the quality of the texture because it was very far away, right? It's not extremely, it's normal to have this kind of texture, but you can definitely reuse it in a 3D texture software to redo your texture. But at least you have your model and UVs. So now let's export this. Export to Maya. Yeah, it's gonna be the same version, but it's gonna export the texture this time. So because it's the same model, I'm gonna just assign a quick shader, constant shader. Just frozen. There we go. And assign my quick texture. Textures, I don't have UDIMs, so let's go in obj, cache, obj, and I should see my textures here. Yeah, this is the one. Completely black, yeah. So now if I reorient it quickly, I should see the result. There we go. This is absolutely done. The only thing we just missed, it's maybe before to do this, get the right scale, because I believe this is extremely small compared to the reality. So we have to, for instance, go here to do some control points between 2 points here, for instance, and then you can define the distance. Or you just need to scale it in Maya. Basically, it's extremely simple. So that's it for these classes. I hope you enjoy this exercise with a drone, and see you on the next one.